chose my country over my daughter, and in the end, I lost her anyway. I didn't just miss her childhood, I missed the moment she stopped needing me. Now I'm 85 in a house so quiet, it feels like no one remembers my name. And the worst part, I thought I was doing the right thing. For 35 years, I lived in rooms most people never see. Windowless rooms, quiet rooms, rooms where a single sentence could change everything. Not just decisions, consequences, outcomes that didn't get a second chance. Maps spread across tables, covered in lines that weren't just borders, but the difference between calm and chaos. Places where people slept peacefully, or didn't. And somehow, those lines ran through my hands. Phones that never rang twice. Voices that didn't introduce themselves. No names, no small talk, no time. Just information, urgency, deadlines, and the expectation that I would know what to do. And I did. That's the part I don't regret. I was good at it. Reliable, precise, trusted. The kind of person people looked at when things started to fall apart. And in those rooms, that mattered. It felt like purpose, like I wasn't just living. I was responsible for something bigger than myself. I believed in what I was doing. I needed to believe in it, because without that, none of it would have made sense. I told myself it mattered more than anything else, more than comfort, more than sleep, more than home, more than being present for things that didn't seem urgent at the time. They called it service, sacrifice, honor. Words that sound heavy until you carry them long enough that they start to feel normal. And when you hear those words enough, you stop asking what they're taking from you. Because everything around you keeps reinforcing the same idea, that this is what matters, that this is worth it, that this is who you are. And after a while, you don't question it anymore. You don't look back. You don't notice what's quietly disappearing on the other walls, other side of the door. Because as long as the room still needs you, it feels like nothing important could possibly be missing. There was a night I almost left early, one of the few times I let myself think about going home before I was supposed to. It was her birthday. I remember that much, not because I was there, but because I saw it through someone else's eyes. Her mother sent me a photo. Emily was standing by the table, small, dressed up more than usual, like she had been told this night mattered. There was a cake, candles already lit, and she was smiling. But even in that photo, you could see it. Her eyes weren't on the cake. They were on the door, waiting for me. I stood up from the table, reached for my coat. For a moment, I chose her. not in words, not out loud, just in that small decision to leave. Then someone said, "Just 5 more minutes." 5 minutes. That's all it ever sounds like. Something small, reasonable, temporary. 5 minutes. In a room where everything felt urgent and nothing could wait. So I sibbled back down. I told myself I'd leave right after. I always told myself that. When I finally got home, the house was quiet. Not bushy, peaceful. Just finished. The candles were gone. The cake had already been cut. Plates stacked in the sink. The kind of silence that tells you you're too late, without anyone needing to say it. I found her on the couch, still in her dress, curled up, sleep. There was frosting on her sleeve, like she had tried to wait just a little longer before giving up. I stood there, looking at her, longer than I should have. Long enough to feel something I didn't want to name. And then I did what I had trained myself to do. I made it make sense. I told myself, I'll make it up to her. That this was temporary. That one missed night didn't mean anything. That there would be time to fix it later. I didn't know it then, but that's how it starts. Not with a big decision. Not with something obvious. Just a moment. That feels small enough to ignore. That wasn't the night I lost her. That was the night losing her started to feel acceptable. And after that, it got easier. Emily used to wait for me by the window. Small hands pressed against the glass, standing on her toes just to see a little farther down the driveway. Every pair of headlights meant something. Every sound outside was a possibility. And sometimes it was late, quiet, carrying things I couldn't explain, and stories I couldn't tell. She would still run to the door, like I hadn't already been gone too long, like time worked differently for her. That kind of love doesn't ask questions. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't protect itself. It just waits. And I mistook that for something that would always be there. The first time she called, it didn't feel important. I was already in the room, doors closed, phones muted, a situation unfolding faster than anyone expected. Voices overlapping, pressure building. My phone lit up on the table. Emily. I remember looking at her name, longer than I should have. Long enough to feel something, but not long enough to act on it. Someone across the table said my name. Not loud, just enough. A reminder of where I was supposed to be. So I picked up the phone and stepped outside. The hallway was cold, quiet, the kind of silence that only exists outside rooms full of urgency. I answered, "Hey, kiddo." Her voice was soft, but there was something under it. Something I didn't stop long enough to understand. "Dad, will you be home this weekend?" Not a big question, not a difficult one, just a moment. I leaned against the wall, closed my eyes just for a second. Through the glass behind me, I could still see them. Waiting, watching. The room didn't stop just because I stepped out of it. I lowered my voice. "Can it wait?" There was a pulse. Not long enough for anyone else to notice, but long enough for something to change. "Yeah, I guess." She said it quickly. Too quickly. Like she had already learned what my answer would be and was just confirming it. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I'll call you later." I didn't. I went back into the room, closed the door, picked up the conversation exactly where I left it. And everything continued, as if nothing had happened. But something had. That was the first time I chose my country over her. And the truth is, it didn't feel like a choice. That's what makes it dangerous. It felt necessary, logical, responsible, like the kind of decision a good man is supposed to make. And once you convince yourself of that, you stop noticing the cost. The next time her name appeared, I didn't hesitate as long. The time after that, I didn't step out of the room at all. Calls became shorter. Conversations became updates. And updates became silence. She adjusted. That's what children do. They adjust to the version of you that shows up. She stopped asking for weekends, stopped asking for time. Just smaller questions, safer ones. "What time will you be home?" And even then, my answers were vague. "Late." "Not sure." We'll see." Yeah, words that sound harmless. Yeah, until they become a pattern. I told myself she understood, that she was strong, that one day she would be proud of me. But I was wrong. She wasn't asking less. She was expecting less. And there's a difference. A quiet one, but permanent. I didn't lose her all at once. I lost her in moments I thought didn't matter. The day of her wedding started like any other day I had trained myself to survive. Early, quiet, controlled. For a few seconds after I woke up, everything felt normal. Then it came back. 2 places. Same time. Only one version of me could exist in either. On one side, a small church. White flowers, soft music, a long aisle. She would walk down step by step, looking up just once to see if I was there. On the other, a secured room, no windows, screens glowing, people already waiting for me to sit down and decide something that couldn't be undone. The night before, they made it clear. If you step out, the deal collapses. A ceasefire, fragile, temporary. Hostages still allowed, but not guaranteed to stay that way. And somehow, I was the one holding that thread together. I sat on the edge of the bed, my phone in my hand. Her last message was still there. Dad, I'll be walking down the aisle at 3. No anger, no pressure, just a time. Like she was giving me one last chance, without asking for it. I read it again, and again. I could see it. The doors opening, the music starting, her taking that first step, and then pausing, just for a second, looking up, looking for me. I stood there, holding my jacket, keys on the table. One step, and I could leave. One decision, and I could be there. Not as an advisor, not as someone important, just her father. And for the first time in years, I hesitated, because somewhere beneath everything, I knew the truth. If I didn't go now, there would be no later. But responsibility has a way of making everything else feel smaller. I told myself this was bigger than one moment, that lives depended on it, that she would understand that she always had, and that belief made the decision easier than it should have been. I put the phone down, and I walked into the room. Doors closed behind me. Voices picked up where they had left off. Numbers, names, pressure. The world narrowed again to something I could control. And somewhere, miles away, music was starting. I don't remember what I said in that meeting. Not clearly. I don't remember how long it lasted. I just remember staying, choosing not to leave, choosing not to go. When it was over, it was already evening. The room had gone quiet, not because anything had ended, but because I was no longer needed in it. People stood up. Chairs moved. Voice faded into smaller conversations. And just like that, the thing that had felt so urgent it was already behind us. I turned my phone back on. For a second, nothing happened. Then the screen lit up. A message. A photo. I opened it. And there she was, standing in a white dress, smiling. Not the kind of smile that asks for anything. Not the kind that waits. Just a smile that had already accepted something was missing. Next to her, a man I had never met. And behind them, a row of chairs, perfectly arranged, evenly spaced, waiting. One of them, empty. I didn't need to zoom in. I knew. That one was mine. I stared at that image, longer than I've ever stared at anything, as if looking at it long enough might change it, as if there was still a version of that moment where I had made a different choice. But there wasn't. That moment was already over. And there are some things in life that don't leave space for repair. This was one of them. I called her. It rang once, then voicemail. I kept the phone to my ear, even after the beep, listening to the silence on the other end. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say. Not because I didn't have words, but because none of them could undo what I had already done. A few days later, I got a message. Short, simple. Dad, I stopped asking you to come. No anger, no blame. Just a decision I wasn't part of anymore. That's when I understood something I should have seen years ago. She didn't stop loving me that day. She stopped needing me a long time before that. When I retired, there was no moment that felt like an ending. No final decision that mattered more than the others. No room that suddenly fell silent because I was gone. Just a quiet transition, a handshake, a few words, and then I was no longer needed. For years, everything had moved around me. People waited for me. Decisions paused until I spoke. And then one day, nothing did. The calls stopped first. Not all at once, just fewer, then shorter, then gone. Emails turned into updates I wasn't included in. Meetings happened without my name on the list. World I had built my life around kept moving like I had never been part of it. I went home that first day earlier than I ever had before. The house felt unfamiliar, not because anything had changed, but because I had finally stayed long enough to notice what had been missing for years. Too quiet, too still. I stood in the doorway, not sure what I was supposed to do next. For decades, my time had never been my own. Now I had all of it and nowhere to put it. I walked through the rooms slowly. Pictures on the wall, moments I had missed, captured without me. Birthdays, holidays, smiles I wasn't there to see when they happened. I stopped in front of one photo. Emily, younger, standing beside her mother, holding a cake, candles lit, waiting. I don't remember that day, but she does. I opened a cabinet that evening. Inside, medals, certificates, carefully framed proof of a life that once meant something. I picked one up, heavy, polished, untouched by time. It didn't say anything, didn't ask me how I was, didn't remember what it had cost me to earn it. I held it there, then put it back, closed the door, and the silence returned, louder this time. I tried calling Emily more than once. Sometimes it rang, sometimes it didn't. When she answered, her voice was calm, respectful, distant, like speaking to someone she used to know, but no longer needed. No anger, no blame, just absence. Somehow, that hurt more than anything she could have said. At 85, your body starts to remind you of things your mind tried to ignore. Simple movements take longer. Hands don't always cooperate the way they used to. Even opening a jar can feel like something you might lose. And in those moments, you look around and really, there's no one there. No voice from another room. No footstep. No one calling your name, like it still belongs to them. I used to be surrounded by people, waiting for my decisions. Now, there are days no one waits for me at all. The country I gave everything to kept moving forward. It didn't stop. It didn't look back. And neither did she. I used to think I was building something that would last. A legacy. A name that would mean something long after I was gone. That if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, it would all add up to something permanent. But it doesn't work that way. History doesn't remember you the way you imagine. It moves forward, quietly, without asking who it left behind. And when you're sitting alone, none of it reaches back for you. I got that wrong. Not the work, not the years, the order of things. I thought I had time to come back, time to explain, Time to fix what I kept postponing. But time doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just moves. And it takes things with it. You don't lose a family all at once. You lose it in moments you think don't matter. A call you don't return. A dinner you miss. A chair you leave empty. And one day you look around and there's no one left who expects you to come back. If someone is still waiting for you, don't make them wait too long. Because one day they won't be waiting anymore. If this made you think of someone, don't scroll past it. Call them. Text them. Show up while it still matters.